Well, I'm curious about the House of VERE. How and when did that actually get linked to the dragon court, the dragon lineage? How far back can you take the House of VERE?
The first king there raised his nose above the parapet in 400 BC. He was what they call an elven or fairy king of what is now Scotland. It used to be Pictavia, and he passed the VERE name, or title, should I say, down through I think it's about 1,000 years until the establishment of the Dragon Court in Europe by Melusine VERE, who was the wife of Ranfroid de VERE, and that's when the first Dragon Court in Europe started. Several centuries later, King Sigismund's family, the Luxembourg family, changed their lineage fraudulently in order to be able to claim descent from this dragon princess. And it appears to me that in so doing they gave some kind of legitimacy to the Societas Draconis, which Sigismund founded. Several dates for the inception of Societas Draconis, or the Dragon Court, have been put forward. The earliest was by an old friend of mine from the Warburg Institute, and he claims that it was first conceived of by Sigismund in 1397, and formulated and then opened to the public in 1408. Sigismund at the time was invited to St. George's Chapel, Windsor, where he was made a Knight of the Garter at the same time as my ancestor Richard, the 11th Earl of Oxford. And at that time, Richard was also, according to the traditional practice of exchanging honours, Richard was made a baron and a member of the Dragon Court. And as I said, it's from the very earliest time, all Dragon Courts, starting with the Anunnaki, going through Shebek Nefru, the right to them and the spirit of them has been carried in the blood royal. And as the senior head of the House of VERE, as a descendant of the House of Luxembourg and so on, the right falls to me to be head of the Dragon Court in the 21st century.
Well, I guess some of the members of the House of Anjou, or especially the Plantagenets who evolved from them, Richard I, especially, I remember him saying that the Plantagenets, they came from the devil, and of course a lot of people thought, well, you can say that because they fight a lot, but apparently, having read your books, you can actually take what he says rather literally, that it does go back to an energy, a conscious being that has been for some time associated with the devil or Satan, right?
Yeah. The Plantagenets are a junior branch of the House of VERE. They're what you would call a cadet branch. They're a cadet branch because they descend from Princess Melusine's younger sister. The name Plantagenet doesn't derive from the practice of Geoffrey of Anjou wearing a broom sprig or Plantagenista in his cap. The name Plantagenet comes from Princess Plantina, mother of the family. A junior VERE married, I think it was Ida of Ardennes, and Ida of Ardennes had Ida de VERE, who then married into the Plantagenets, the early Angevins, and so they do have the VERE blood, but it's a junior line, and that is why they are a cadet branch. Now, Melusine was called the daughter of Satan, and actually her line does devolve back through Brood McMile to King VERE, and then from King VERE we have associations and connections through the Irish Tuatha, often mispronounced Tuatha De Danann, and these were Scythians from western central Scythia. They were involved in the Greek wars at one point, and the Sarmatians kicked them out, and they moved to Ireland. Before that, they were descended from the Mitanni, who were Scythians who were living in Assyria, and the Mitanni axe lords were married into the Pharaonic line. And the Pharaonic line goes back to Raneb, and although the Bible says that Cain was the son of Adam, he wasn't. He was actually the ancestor of Raneb, and he was the son of Enki, who the Jews based Satan on. You know, the war in heaven and all this. Now, Satan wasn't an inferior angel. He was the half-brother of El, who then became Jehovah. So, some of it's been mixed up and altered for political reasons anciently. But yes, if we change the name Satan back to Ea or Enki, then yes, you have that descent in our lineage and in Melusine's lineage and in the lineage of the Plantagenets.
I guess you can tie that in with the Anunnaki by saying that Enki was the leader of the Anunnaki, right?
He was by right, but some accounts say that El, or Enlil, to give him his proper name, killed his father, Anu, and wrested the throne and the crown from Enki, who was the son of the eldest queen, and by rights the leader of the Anunnaki. And that's where you get this war in heaven notion from, which is replicated, I think, in Hindu doctrine, and you find it also as the war of the Olympians against the Titans being the elder gods, and the Olympians under Zeus, who is a form of Enlil. So you get it replicated all over the place, really.
Well, apparently you get it through Jesus. In your book, The Dragon Seed, you're actually able to trace Jesus' lineage back to Enki, and that's certainly going to be a major revelation for a lot of people, that Jesus was descended from that being known as the devil. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, it's accurate genetically and genealogically, so it's not a Teddy's bedtime story. But I do realize that in actually publishing this, there is a little bit of mischievousness on my part, because I know there's going to be a lot of doctrinal bigots and fundamentalists out there who are going to go ballistic, and if they do, then it's a good day's work done as far as I'm concerned, because as far as I'm concerned, doctrinal bigotry killed thousands of people during the witch trials, and it's killed thousands of Jews, it's killed thousands of Christians, whatever, whichever side you look at. So, genetically, Jesus had the red gene, the melanocortin gene. That's an Anunnaki gene. and I get it through him. Whether people like it or not, it has been more or less proved archaeologically that Jesus was married, and there are several references to intimacy, I think, in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and the Gospel of Philip and so on. And the R1b gene that I have, and all us lot have, descends from him and from his ancestors, David and Solomon and Rama and the pharaohs and so on.
Well, I think you probably know that I'm completely in agreement with you, and I've written similarly in my books. It's just a matter of being able to translate that to people that don't have our understanding and have them accept it. Not easy.
Well, I don't know. You see, hold on. I'm not in the business of either making money or trying to win friends and influence people. If I did try either, there would be an adequate suspicion that I was a fraud and a con artist, and that I was making this rubbish up simply to sell books. I don't. Number one, all the monies, all the royalties paid for the Dragon Legacy and the Dragon Seed are paid to Mike Hunter, who's our Dragon King of Arms, and he pays that annually to various ecological and social welfare charities. So I'm not making a red cent out of it. The whole lot goes to charity. Number two, if you're trying to win friends and influence people, not my bag, because if you are, then you have to compromise the truth as you see it, and you have to alter the directness of your approach simply to make others happy. And I'm an iconoclast. I'm not a brown nose. People either accept it or they don't. And it's probably up to people far greater and more intelligent than me to convince the public of the veracity and validity of those statements. I've presented the genetic and the genealogical information, and as far as I'm concerned, Mark, people can do with it what they wish. If it makes some kind of a social difference, or it makes people think twice about Pauline dogma and the nonsense of early Catholicism, which has influenced every denomination in the world, then, and it makes people less dogmatic and less rigid and more open to meditating and thinking upon things before, blowing up another sacred cow with a bicycle pump, then that's got to be a good thing, don't you think?
Well, since we're already treading the land of controversy, my next question is about vampires. We know that one of the members of Sigismund's court was Vlad III, also known as Dracula, and of course in your books you've got a whole different definition of what a vampire is. Can you explain that?
Hold on. Now, the word vampire comes from an ancient Anatolian word, uber, and the word uber means witch. Now, in Scythian, which is a language closely related to Anatolia, the later word for a witch was druid. And the role of the druid was as a kingmaker and a priest king, healer, and keeper of records and so on, a brief, as they were later called. So a vampire, or witch, is basically a druid and a seer. And the more violent vampiric connotations that are now associated, or were formerly associated with vampires by our dear friends in Hollywood actually came from the Scythian oblique fairy, oblique elf practice of drinking the blood of the fallen in battle, whereas the proper vampiric rites were starfire, which we discussed earlier. Now, the word Uber or vampire is translated very much consistently into Russian and into German, and both very strongly suggest a link with the word Uber or over. And given their role, you might say that the original vampires were high kings and queens, princes and princesses and so on. And the recent nonsense that Hollywood put forward over the last 50 years or so, which is now kind of dying out with films like, what's that thing with Kristen Stewart in, Mark? I can't remember. Twilight, that's it. You know, the more romantic view of vampire. So, in summary, vampires aren't just lifeless souls, bodies inhabited by demons who go around thinking totally and only of drinking blood. They actually had a social role to perform for their people as both a servant, a protector, and a representative. And there are old Romanian tales, very early vampire tales, where the vampires and their charges, their human charges, got on, like a house on fire. And one of the main duties of the vampires and the vampire kings was the protection of the people. And somehow or another down the line, and I can bet you bottom dollar it was the Vatican who first instigated it, their reputation has hit the skids increasingly as the Roman Church has gained more and more power from AD 400 on. They've tried to wipe out any form of opposition to their hegemony and their profit margin. And these vampire dragon kings and queens were just simply standing in the way, which is why I believe the Merovingians were ousted in favour of the more compliant Carolingians. It's all been a very, very long conspiracy by the church to blacken the dragon name and to put themselves on top. And as you probably read in both the Legacy and in the Seed, we have documents that the Vatican knocked up called the Donation of Constantine, and that was purportedly written by Constantine to Pope Sylvester. And Constantine was supposed to have been so grateful to the Pope for curing his leprosy that Constantine gave the entire Roman Empire over to this said Pope Sylvester, and it was signed in 329, just before his death. Big problem. Donation of Constantine was written in Vulgate Latin, which is the Latin St. Jerome used in the Vulgate Bible, and this Latin first came into popular use in AD 700 and something. The document was actually forged by a scribe working in Paris in around about 947 AD, I believe it was, and it began to be used by the Pope towards the beginning of the middle medieval period, and he was waving it under everybody's nose and demanding that everyone bent the knee, and he also demanded that the only people that could crown kings were the Catholic Church, and the whole thing's a load of bunk. It's a complete lie, it's a forgery, and it's one of the main reasons we haven't had any valid kings or queens in Europe since the time of Charlemagne, and therefore we haven't got any valid government institutions. None of the people that purportedly are Christian monarchs who sit on thrones today or are Christian princes have any fons honorum. Therefore, for the last 15 or so 100 years, all the titles and honours and all the coats of arms that these Christians have dished out have been completely fraudulent and worthless.